Thompson. I'm going to take you on a trip today, back in time, to 1991. I don't know if all of you were old enough to have been around at that time, but if you weren't, you're still going to get to go back. And the occasion is a panel discussion with Don Campbell, Dr. Alfred Tomatis, Ilana Rubenfeld, who is a pioneer in the work with body, mind, emotion, spirit, and myself as the moderator. The occasion is the first and only U.S. Tomatis training in the United States with Tomatis and his team from Harris and me. And it's in Phoenix, Arizona. Don came to that organization at that time, and he helped me deliver listening training programs to the participants who came from all over the United States, professionals who wanted to go through this training and also to do their own programs, the Tomatis Method programs. Maybe you have not heard of Tomatis, maybe you have. Tomatis was a physician in France who became very involved with research early on with singers who had a problem with their voices. And what he learned was the problem wasn't their larynx, as he had been taught in medical school. Instead, it was their ears. They could not hear the sounds that they once had been singing. They were not getting their paychecks. This is a serious situation. And his father started sending his friends, who were also opera singers, to his son so he could fix them up. Out of this came the birth of the Tomatis Method, which is, it turned out to be a machine that evolved over about 30 years, a lot of different patents in the United States and elsewhere, that would help singers and other people, as it turned out, retrain how their auditory vestibular system worked, so that not only could they change their voice, find their voice, but also improve how they processed information through sound and through their body movement. Those are what the two things are that the ear does. It analyzes the movement of sound and the movement of the body. And therefore, it's one system, the ear is. I always liked that definition from Tomatis, and it helps to explain why we'll see so many different changes by retraining the ear with structured sound, primarily using Mozart and the Tomatis and the Gregorian chant as the types of music used. So in this meeting there, I had met Don in 1984 at the conference called Education Explosion in Tarrytown, New York. Anybody ever hear of it? If you ever have a chance to find out who was there, it's probably most of the leaders in educational innovation around the world. And I learned about it and decided to go. Don was there. He was assisting Jean Houston by keyboarding when she would ask him to do some kind of music to point out, example something that she was talking about. I really paid attention when she asked Don this. She says, "Don, would you please play Mozart? One hand like Liberace, one hand like Willie Nelson." And he did. From there on, it gets very interesting. And I also learned at this conference that he was a consultant to innovative educational centers and schools across the United States and elsewhere in the world. So I had gotten my doctorate at Arizona State University, and it was developing a theory of teacher change based on Teachers in the National Writing Project. It was a grounded theory, so that meant I started with questions and I ended up with answers based on quantitative and qualitative analysis of information. I was very intrigued by innovation in education, and so I immediately asked to have breakfast with Don and then asked him a question, which was to change my life. The question was, where would I have to go to see educational innovations and programs that I could bring to a private education center and then be able to assist people to make the changes they wanted to make instead of having to learn to cope with their problems? His answer, without any hesitation, was, "You must go to the Listening Center in Toronto and learn about the Tomatis Method." I had no clue what he was talking about. I did go, and I went to many other places that he told me about over a number of years. And when I walked into that center and I saw people sitting with headphones on their heads, parents talking, children playing in another room, some playing with toys like Legos or puzzles or things like that. And other children and adults were in little booths and were speaking into a microphone wearing headphones. I was to learn that they were listening to their voices modified by the machine called the electronic ear, and that it was allowing them to hear their voice with good quality of sound, so that through this conditioning process they could learn to change their voices and bring all the richness into the most ideal kind of listening curve, which was always the goal for this work. I stayed in this Tomatis group. I was very involved through 2004, and then I left to introduce the EnListen technology, which is software, and we're now moving to other kinds of digital products to bring this work into more broadly available ways for people who can work with computers or work with tablets or work with apps, as it's going to be turning out in a few years, maybe next year. So what happened is I know that my legacy is very much starting with Don Campbell's answer to my question that day, and that his legacy involves certainly his love of music, his appreciation for music of every culture in the world, his devotion to his teacher Nadia Boulanger, and to his teacher and mentor Alfred Tomatis. I gave a copy of the 60-minute presentation of this panel that Don actually suggested that we have at this training. And so I gave him a copy for his 65th birthday. We had it in Phoenix, and he didn't have time to look at it then. He looked at it when he went back, and in January, I'm not sure if it was before he learned about his illness or after, but he called me and he said, I just looked at the tape, the DVD, and he says, I am so amazed at how much Tomatis was my teacher and my mentor. And I get chills because I know that it was true. So today you're going to see 30 minutes of it. It's mostly Tomatis and Don. I have a little bit about Alana, a couple of minutes, so you get a feeling for her. Her work is absolutely magnificent as well. And if you want more, I have not ever showed this before, just getting ready to do some things, but if you want more or you want to buy a copy of this or the full 60 minutes, Helena's got some sheets back on the table, and you're very welcome to do that. I will be happy to fulfill those orders. I probably should be able to do it within 2 weeks. Some of them I have with me, so if you want and you do it early, I will get you some today. But please enjoy the younger Don, the wise Tomatis, and Alana and I, kind of being involved in this for the legacy that you can learn about for Don and for myself. And thank you. I appreciate your being here today.